Freedom. What do they say? Freedom is just another word for nothing left to lose. Are you there? Anything you have left to lose that we need to clear out today? Here we are in the Freedom series. And ultimately, this word enlightenment is really just freedom. Freedom. To be yourself. To be your full expression. Free of the things that would hold you back. Keep you in your own crystal prison. Free to be the I am. Beholden to no one. No one. Not even some God. Amazing, isn't it? I always think, well, I can let go of the parent thing or the teacher thing or the angelic thing or all of these other levels, but isn't there always that God I'm beholden to? Not in the purity of God, no. Because Spirit, the Eternal One, gave you itself with no rules, no regulations, no checking in, no curfew or anything else. Said go and be as you want to be. Be the I am. That's a lot of responsibility. It's something actually, as we discussed starting several years ago, there's a lot of humans that really don't want their freedom. They want an easier life, but not necessarily true freedom. But you, I believe, have chosen that. You have taken that responsibility. And it's not always easy, this thing called enlightenment. Probably a lot more difficult than what you ever thought it was going to be like. A lot more difficult. So many expectations. And that's what we're going to talk about today in this last of the Freedom series. The expectations, those few really difficult and challenging things that are still remaining. Few difficulties, roadblocks. We're going to do some discussion. We're going to take some deep breaths and hopefully move beyond those. This thing called enlightenment, not so easy at all. I think there was a perception on the human level what it was going to be like. And it wasn't that way at all. And that's a good thing. Because the last thing that you or your I am would ever want was the human aspect designing your enlightenment. The thoughts are quickly going through the mind of what an awkward creation that would have been. Filled with mistruths, filled with imbalances, filled with, well, some things that we're going to talk about today. But yes, if the human was left to design and to allow this thing called enlightenment, I don't think ultimately it would really be about enlightenment because there would be limitations. If you sat down and said, this is how I'm going to get to enlightenment, and this is what enlightenment is, there would have been so many limitations and so many biases and imbalances, and the human would have continued its energy feeding. A human would continue to try to glorify its human identity other than its I am identity. The human would have become very vulnerable to all of the other elements around mass consciousness, its own past, its mind, its analytical versus creative way of thinking. So it's a good thing that it wasn't the human design, the human aspect, part of which is sitting here today. The human aspect that you are, fortunately, has been allowing this thing called enlightenment. Far different, far different than designing it or thinking it. Just allowing it. Not allowing that assuming that we talked about in our last shout. It takes tremendous trust. And very, very few people will ever get to that level of trust. I know it's difficult at times. I'm nearby so often at night when you're going through some of the worst, when you're going through that inner torment that you go through. But I'm so proud of each and every one of you that you can, in the midst of those storms, you can take a deep breath. And from the purest part of yourself, take a deep breath and say, I am that I am. No longer trying to fight these inner battles or inner demons. No longer trying to figure out what you're supposed to be doing. No longer trying to craft or design your own enlightenment, but taking a deep breath, taking a good deep breath, saying, I am that I am. Created equal, but some just have more karma than others. That was cut out, of course. That's very true. All souled beings are equal. Equal in opportunity, equal in potential, equal in their freedom. But many carry a lot of karma. Karma from their past lives, karma from their ancestors, karma from society. A lot of them carry that, and therefore don't give themselves the true freedom that they really deserve. The discussion of karma goes way back to the time of Tobias, saying, it's just a belief. It's not real. It's not out there in the cosmos. Nobody's keeping track. There are really no Akashic records recording all this. One is free of their karma the moment they let go of it. Now, you can have the worst rap sheet in the world. You can have lifetime and lifetime of bad deeds. And the moment you say, I release that burden, that karma, I release it. Guilt-free. It's a hard thing to do when you feel bad about yourself, when you have hurt other people, when you've hurt yourself. Feels almost irresponsible. But it's actually the most responsible thing you can do, because the moment you let go of your karma, the moment you let go of your perceptions of the past, it changes the future potential. Like Tobias said, the future is the past healed. I'll come back to it from what we talked about years ago, got so many people upset. Are you ready for it? Your own freedom from how you perceive yourself, the limitations of your self-perception. Freedom has nothing to do with the outside world. Freedom is a very personal thing within yourself. Free to be you. Free of the guilt or the shame or the burden of the past. You get past that, there's no government, there's no religion, there's no neighborhood or anyone that can tell you how to live. You simply go out of that algorithm. I'll talk about that later. To allow something called freedom. Has it worked? To a large degree, yes. The world's infinitely different than it was back in 1776. Light years ahead in terms of respect and equality, and you're seeing it more and more every day all around the world. It's contagious right now, this whole thing of freedom. As you know from when I came in after dear Tobias left, I said, this is about freedom. So what's going on in the world, if you want to know why the energies are doing what they're doing, it's all about freedom. Some people are ready for it. Many are not. Some people love the word and the concept, but they're not ready to put it into their lives. Freedom requires tremendous responsibility. It's freedom from everything, as we'll get into today. It's not just freedom from taxes. It's not just freedom from religion even, or politics. It's your freedom from yourself, with yourself. Those who rant on about government freedom, they should stop for a moment and take a look. Are they free within themselves? It has nothing to do with conspiracies, businesses, governments, religions, or anything else, because one can be free even in the greatest density of all of those other factors. You can be in prison and be absolutely free. It's actually a tremendous experience, being imprisoned and having to find your freedom. Tremendous experience. Life will never be the same. What to do? Talked about a new tomorrow. Talked about what dreams may come. About freedom. The interesting thing is actually nothing. Actually nothing, except to keep breathing and allowing. Because if you wake up tomorrow morning and say, oh, I have to make this different than yesterday. I better get in there with my human self, my human mind, and I better eat yogurt instead of oatmeal, like that's really going to set you free. I better walk up the stairs backwards, really to fool spirit and your soul. It's not going to work. And if you try to, smash your way out of old prisons, of old dynamics, that kind of forced dynamic actually can work against you sometimes. I'm going to go tell that person off because I want to be free. So I'm going to go tell them what's been on my mind. That's not freedom. That's being obnoxious. Freedom, sovereignty, use the words interchangeably, is a state of consciousness. What happens is once you breathe it and you choose it, once you listen to it, into that quiet voice, then it changes all of your energy dynamics. Actually, you don't need to do anything. You stand there right in the midst of the storm, and it all happens. It's the acceptance. It's the forgiveness. It's the feeling into that new voice of freedom. You actually don't have to do anything. That's the amazing part. You don't have to affect change on a duality, linear human level. It's like our dream walk the other day. You are in your own dream walk of your own tomorrow. You're just there in your presence. Suddenly, everything aligns itself with you to freedom. Means that some people may go out of your life, new ones come in. Means that some old belief system, some old job, so whatever, it moves, you don't. Remember a long time ago, Adamus told one of his long stories about, it's like being on a bicycle. You think about being on a bicycle, you think about pedaling and moving and action. New energy bike. You're stationary. You're not moving. Everything else is. The landscape, the reality, it shifts and changes. And all you have to do, it's like we did on the dream walk the other day, be in your compassionate presence. That's all. Be in your compassionate presence. No fighting it. No trying to scheme it. Take a deep breath. Feel freedom, sovereignty. You don't have to do a thing. It all happens. And then you have a big smile on your face. Somebody's asking you, how did you do this? I mean, really, this was amazing. This was quantum. How did you do this? What books did you study? What great master did you follow? And you say, I didn't. All I did was take a deep breath and say, all is well in all of creation. And so it is. Thank you, dear Shambra. Thank you, dear listeners. To those of you who are still here for the first time, see you next month. Thank you. Really difficult. The overall relationship, or the overall dynamics right now, this year, I mean, like forever, but mostly this year, so simple. I said it before, say it again, it's all about freedom. Humanity is in this struggle for freedom, or what they think is freedom. Tremendous, that's the biggest duality right now that's taking place on the planet, and it's showing up in so many different ways, and it will continue that way this year into next year. It's all about freedom. So many people calling for freedom, but what are you reading in the news? It's not about this group, that group, this person, that person becoming free. And not at all. What you're hearing about is entrapment, enslavement, limitation, hypnotism that's happening on this planet. I'm digressing here, but I'll get back to my point. The level of hypnosis on this planet right now is, using your words, off the charts. It's so easy to do. It's so easy. The mind is so vulnerable right now. And this will make sense later on. But the mind is extremely vulnerable, and people don't get it. There's a dynamic for freedom. People say they want freedom. But as I said a number of years ago, and was certainly criticized for it, they really don't. They really don't. They think they want freedom. And a lot of leaders will say, we're giving you more freedom, but they're not. Very few humans are ready for true freedom. And that's why I honor each and every one of you. You struggle with it, but I know at the core, that's what you're ready for. Humans generally want a little bit easier life. They like to gripe about things. Have you noticed that? And they want things a little easier, but not really freedom. Not if it was handed to them on a silver plate and said, you could have absolute freedom, financial, physical, spiritual, everything. Because I might also have to say, it's going to change your life. And it might change your relationships, and it might change the way you think, and your job, and your future, and everything else. And they say, let me think it over. Boom, got them. Because the minute they start thinking, they are so, rather than choosing, they are so vulnerable to everything else, everyone else. I talked down in Colombia about hypnosis and how it's being used by groups. And you could say, oh, this is terrible. It's been going on for a long time. They're just refining it now. This thing with remote hypnosis, these groups that are intentionally putting, you could call them thought waves out there. They don't have to be in front of you with a watch and wake up, wake up. They don't have to be in front of you with a watch or anything like that. That's so passé. That's so 1800s. It's very different now. It can be sent virtually, instantly in the airwaves. And somebody that doesn't know how to choose, that really isn't wanting freedom, somebody that can't discern their thoughts from anybody else's, is going to pick up on it. It's actually so easy to do. You don't have to be a master mesmerizer at all. You just have to know how to project a thought and put it out there, how to dress it up, package it for the right audience, and then just see if they pick it up or not. But speaking of remote hypnosis, anybody have a clue where it originated in modern times?
Russia.
Did I hear Russia? Anywhere else? Anyone? Romania. No, so pick on Romania, would you? Where else? Russia, Romania. Where did this remote hypnosis, these trained specialists gather together, go into somewhat of a trance state, but it doesn't have to be a deep trance, project thoughts out. Military. How about it originated, to me, in the Vatican? In the Vatican, absolutely. And do you know what it was called at the time? Prayer. Now you do the now. Prayer. Now, it wasn't done necessarily for sinister purposes, but they found out, if we pray for someone who's sick, it kind of has an effect. They think it's divine intervention. Pfft. It's simply hypnosis. Somebody can be hypnotized into feeling better, wherever our chart is, or somebody could be hypnotized into feeling better. Why? They pick up a thought, a mental packet that says you're better. Suddenly they are. That is, give me my book back, your book. That is an act of consciousness. They acted. Okay, they picked it up. So from that, priests and bishops and cardinals gathered around and said, this prayer thing, there's more to it. What if we prayed for more money? I was there, I saw it. What if we prayed for more money? What if we prayed for power?
Ooh.
What if we prayed for world dominance? Never pray for to dominate the world. You don't understand what you're getting with that package. It's not very pretty. So they realized that with what some of you now call intention, prayer, directed, focused, mental thought.
You're coughing. You need something to drink.
I'm coughing. I'm so excited. that actually it had an effect. Now, they didn't understand how or why. They didn't. This goes back 500, 600, 700 years ago, but they knew it worked. Now, they thought it was some, intervention from God or something. They didn't care. They really didn't care. Let's pray now for more members. Let's pray that we do a certain thing a certain way. Well, this was picked up later by governments, of course. What's a government without their sinister plots? And used by military, used by a lot of people now, and they put it in, they call it different things. It's still prayer. At its basics, it's yes, I pray that David will be nice to me. And it's a thought that's put out there. Now, the reality is that it's kind of like a wave, kind of like a radio current that goes out there, but it actually is actually more powerful, more efficient. And it goes out, and it can be picked up by anyone. Or you can really focus it. You can narrow the thought spectrum so it just has the potential to land on certain people. The thought by itself really is, it cannot make you do something that you don't want to do. But most people have no clue who they are, what they want to do, why they're here. They just know they need to eat, they need to have a place to sleep, and have sex, a few of the other basic things. But other than that, no clue. So they're very vulnerable. They don't understand the difference between consciousness and thought. They don't understand what energy is. They don't understand too much of anything. So they're very, very susceptible, particularly when a hypnotic thought, a remote hypnosis is packaged in a certain way, and it's instant. It doesn't take, you could send it across the universe instantly, and they accept it as their own. So the level of hypnotic thought and suggestion is at an all-time high across the planet. Some very deliberate, some rather clumsy, some just the everyday act of living. And it's out there. It affects all of you until you make a choice. What's yours, what's not. Denise, you're accepting a lot of stuff, a lot of things in your life that aren't yours. You claim they are. claim they come from past lives, from your childhood, from experiences in your life. Nah, they're not. They are not yours, unless you want them to be. The only thing that's yours is what you choose. Even if you think it came from your past, even if you think it's your bad habit, even if you think that you can't do anything about it, it's not yours. Not yours at all, unless you choose it. So you get rid of all the crap that's not yours, literally, figuratively. Let's start by talking about freedom. Freedom. How appropriate Linda's dressed for the occasion.
It's Freedom Weekend.
Yeah, Freedom Weekend.
Independence, sovereignty.
Independence Day. So, 4th of July in America, Independence Day. I'll talk more about my involvement.
Of course you will. Of course.
But I want to talk a little bit about freedom. I never forget the moment, and I tell the story often at the Ascended Masters Club. I'd only been with Shambhala a matter of months, perhaps, when I asked the audience one day in my questioning, do humans really want freedom? And a pause came over the audience, just like right now. And I saw people shaking their heads. Yeah. And I waited with theatrical pause, waited, baiting them at the time. And I finally said, not really. And the look on the faces, the change in the energy that swept across the room, all of a sudden turning from dear friends of mine into adversaries. I could feel the loathing and the disdain. I could feel the ugliness as it shot up from your eyes onto me. What are you talking about, Adamus? Yes, humans want freedom. And I said, no, actually, I don't think they do. I think they want a little bit more ease in their life, a little bit more circus, a little bit more beer, a little bit more football. They want a little bit of that. But true freedom? No. Very few people could actually handle it. They need the defining roles that they play. They need the defining type of jobs. Believe it or not, people want their governments. I know they like to complain about them, but they need them because these are the I guess you would say the comforts and also the distractions from true freedom. True freedom is tremendous responsibility. You can't be complaining and blaming things on conspiracies if there's true freedom. On your families, on your mates, on anything else, on boogeymen, on demons or anything else. True freedom, the responsibility is all yours. And it's also accepting that the energy is yours. So true freedom, no. If they really did, there would be a lot more freedom on the planet. Now, that being said, there is an increasing trend on the planet for people to start pursuing the path to freedom. We talked about it before using this acronym STEP. Sovereignty, which is freedom, sovereignty. These are the major influences that are going on the planet right now. You can track everything to these four simple things that are going on, but sovereignty or freedom. More and more people now are seeking freedom, but they're very confused about what freedom is. They go through a lot of iterations. They go through a lot of, they do a lot of protesting, for instance, for the sake of freedom, but they really don't quite understand what it is. But yet it's gaining momentum, this freedom passion with humans. And I can very clearly state that it's because of you, of Shambhala, and some others who have gone that path first. You know what it's like, when you realize you can't blame it on anybody else. You can't point the finger at any other group or person or family or anything else. Freedom is accepting your responsibility, the fact that you are creating it. But there's more and more people on the planet right now that are starting to pursue freedom or sovereignty. That's a long, hard path. It sounds so glorious. Freedom! But then all of a sudden, ooh, it means I got to take it, all the responsibility for everything. Lack of abundance, health, bad childhood, whatever it is. Freedom is taking responsibility. And then I say in the truest form of freedom, it's laughing at everything that's happened. It's laughing, being able to laugh at it at the end. And then we have the step, sovereignty, truth, human searching for truth, energy, and then power. Those are the key influences happening on the planet right now. The biggest one I would say is freedom, true freedom. How many people on the planet, what percent are really wanting true freedom? Really true freedom? Less than 1% on the whole planet. Almost, 7 billion people now. You keep making babies down here. I can't keep count anymore. But a very, very small number of people really want freedom. But yet, there are those who are now thinking about it, feeling it. There's those who are going through the internal kind of a strife, saying, there's got to be more. There's got to be more to this being on the planet as a human. There's got to be more ways to express myself. They're at the early stages of truly allowing freedom, but it's a long road. You know that. It's a very long road. You go through all the iterations, you go through all the aggravations of it. You think you know what freedom is. It's a nice buzzword, and then suddenly, boom, that falls apart. And then you get up again and try more freedom. And it almost seems like the more you're trying for freedom, the more that the prison, the zoo, will hold you back. The more you desire to get out of the zoo, the more it tries to hold you in. Or a better way of saying it, the more you try to get away from your family, the more they draw you back. But freedom is such a prevailing trend on the planet right now.